The dads are back. 100 Talk is back. 100 Thieves are back. Jordan's beard is back. Cole's beard is trying to appear for the first time, and it's not going so well. Don't make fun of me.
Back for the first time, Cole's beard.
Exactly. Oh, gosh. It'll be the last two, I think. It's just not going well. Everybody, it's been a while, but welcome back to 100 Talk. It's good to have the 100 kids back.
100% forgotten how to do this show, Cole.
Yeah, same here.
It's been so long. We're usually like, we've got some gimmick because it's Weird Worlds time.
Exactly.
And how should we feel about any of this? We've got so much team news. We're going to have to hurry to get through everything.
Yeah, we're so used to not having anything to talk about.
Yeah.
Now we got to make up the difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And perhaps we have some new. We got like a full new staff.
That's right.
I'm gonna say that there's a chance we've got a new set of eyes or two. Cole, what the heck is this show?
Well, this show is the #1 fan-run podcast for 100 Thieves, League of Legends Hot Action. That is who we are. We're a couple of silver League of Legends players. We don't know a whole lot, but we like this team a whole lot.
We do, and I would say we've been fans of 100 Thieves for about as long as you can possibly be that.
That's true.
So we do have that title. We'll hold on to that one. We got to keep hold of something.
Yeah.
As the solo queue continues to just grind us down into nothing.
Into dust.
Into dust.
Into mere shadows of the men we used to be.
The iron dust. Not iron.
Well, look, yes. So this show it's not like a call-in show. We're just doing a refresher for all the new people that we might have coming on to us with the new people, new staff, new season. So welcome if you're new to us. We love you. We hope you become one of our children very soon.
If you don't know what we're talking about, head over to Twitch.
That's right.
Head over to Twitch.
Yeah. If you're on YouTube, get the heck over to Twitch. It's way better.
What are you doing? Although courage in YouTube going strong.
Well, that's not us.
But wherever you're watching us or listening to us, know that you can watch or listen in other places too. So if you like Twitch, we go live. We do the show live. This is a live production. I know it sounds very scripted. You would think we write this out and just read it in like a studio, but we actually do this live. So watch us on Twitch. It's a lot of fun. If you can't catch us live, we do have podcasts, of course. So check out any podcast carrier. I think Cole has officially gotten us into every single one.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. If
every reputable one.
If they have podcasts, we're there, which is cool. And then I think that's about it. You can watch the VODs on our YouTube channel if you like. If you're a VOD guy or girl, we're VOD guys too. So we dig it. We are wherever you need us to be.
We're here to be of service. And tonight we're going to serve you by talking about a number of things. There's obviously been a lot of 100 Thieves news that happened today, a lot of changes, things going on, and a lot of rumors out there, a lot of mysterious Twitter accounts appearing out of nowhere, throwing out 100 million things as rumors, and one of them is true, so now everything they say is true. A lot of that going on today. So before we dive right into that, we would be remiss if we didn't take a second to talk about Worlds, I think. Just to give a little bit of a perspective on that. Jordan, seeing what should have been a wonderfully back and forth, even exciting finals, how were you, to what degree were you let down and why?
Answer is maximally, and because I like sport, and it didn't even feel like a competition, man. And so you and I, Cole, we've been very intent League of Legends fans for 2 years, and we have observed exactly 2 of the same outcome. And so you and I are wondering, is there any other way this can be?
Yeah.
Europe set, the hype train arrives at the station only to be exploded by China. Maybe that's just what this is now.
Yeah.
But I'll say, I felt pretty sad. And not not because I was sad that G2 lost, because I don't the fire of hatred doesn't burn as strongly in me as it does in you for G2. But I was sad because it just felt like this dream of parity is still a ways away. And so I've kind of gone through in the last almost 48 hours now, just like this realization that the West isn't there yet.
Yeah.
We're close, but we're not there yet. And so I've been thinking a little bit about how do we, like, what does that mean? That's really what I'm most interested in, because I think that's the implications of that to our team are what really interests me, especially as we have new people talking about our ambitions as an organization and what we can expect.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good level setting for all of us.
That's fair, because it's like if you have what is probably the best Western team ever put together in the history of League of Legends, and they did not get close to victory, at least as far as finals are concerned, then what does that mean for the rest of us who don't have the Golden State Warriors of League of Legends? So I see that, and you brought up my burning hatred for G2. Look, here's the interesting thing about that. I mean, I've made no bones about it. I do not like the players. I like Carlos a lot, but I've not enjoyed their attitude. I'm not one of those people who just loves memes and jokes so much that I just want to see that all the time. I actually like to see some competition and humility and all that stuff. That said, I did about 30 minutes to an hour of just slander on the Twitter timeline against G2, retweeting everything I could find, just because like EU fans have been so obnoxious to me, over the past couple of years. Sorry,
you're making
EU
a name
fans.
For yourself, Cole.
The people listening to this show are probably not those people, but
we've got a few. Maybe
diehard. I don't know. We have good listeners, but I got tired of it, man. I got tired of it, and I saw the responses by G2. The tweets from the players afterwards. They were very humble and very, we're gonna work harder. We want to win this thing, and we're gonna just do our best, and like that's what I like. So I'm declaring right now on the podcast, I'm offering the clean slate to G2. I'm willing to start from scratch with this team, like them and root for them if they so deserve.
Wow, that's a big step.
I'm not willing to do that with the fans, because the fans who have made fun of everyone else, especially NA, for the entire past year, are now so offended and can't believe anybody would ever make fun of G2 for losing, and that is obnoxious to me. Anyway, that's all I'll say. Thought it would be more competitive. I actually had G2 winning it all in my pick'ems.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of pick'ems, congratulations to Jarrett, who I think is in chat. I think I saw Jarrett in chat earlier, who is the winner by virtue of I won it, and he's in second place, and I can't win my own prize. So congratulations to winning your very own 100 Talk Championships Thief mug.
Oh.
Make sure I have your address, Jarrett. You didn't send me a message. Make sure you DM me your address, and we'll get that mug out to you.
There's Jarrett.
Yeah,
Congratulations, Jarrett.
Congrats, everybody! Spam the Steve in Jarrett's honor. So if you're a subscriber, hit that emote. All right. Any other piece on Worlds, or you want to just go on and get right into what's going on with 100 Thieves?
I will say this as a final thought on Worlds.
Okay.
Because it's not our Worlds pod, but it did happen yesterday. I don't think that G2 is as far away. Like, I don't think there actually is as big a gap as it seemed like during the game. Let me explain a little bit. Let's not forget, G2 took out SKT. And you can talk about and split the hairs on how they got there. But at the end of the day, they won that series. So that team's no slouch, right? And I think they got outplayed. I think FunPlus looked better prepared. Mm-hmm. I think there's no doubt they're the better team. Like, no one's arguing that. But I don't think it's one of those things where it's just like FPX is in a different class and never shall you attain that level.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. And it's not a debate we have to have. But for me, as I get further away from the events of Sunday morning, I'm feeling a little bit more positive that I think there are things we can do as the non-Chinese region in this new world that we live in to try to catch up with them.
Well,
so I'm not ready to surrender and throw in the towel yet and just say
that makes one of us. Every year. That makes one of us, because in my mind, it's like with the player base that China has, the increased interest in League of Legends, it's only going to get worse. But Who knows? I believe in miracles, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in miracles at the hand of one PapaSmithy, who is now the general manager of 100 Thieves LCS team. And
I like what you did there. It was 1,
of
100 thieves, right?
100 Thieves. Yes, not 100 Thieves. You know.
Yeah,
or
check the style guide.
As we're now referring to him, the esports Tom Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Nate Shot, for that.
Yes.
So,
for short, he's just Tom.
We got to see him, Tom. We got to make Papa Tom make his first appearance in a official media capacity, right? With the Nate Shot video. So we wanted to start there, just kind of go chronologically through what we've been able to pick up from the announcements of the team and the communication that's been going out. So Jordan, I wanted just overall impressions of PapaSmithy's video with Nate Shot. What are some of the takeaways for you? What does it mean for us as we head into free agency?
Yes. All right. So the least surprising thing of all of this is that guy conducts himself well on camera. Holy cow. Talk about being eloquent. Talk about being, concise in what he says. Like, personally, I think that's one of the more important things you can have from a GM, especially in the situation we find ourselves in, which is, I think there's going to be a premium placed on fan engagement and communication, because even if we get that home run roster, which he referenced as one possibility amongst many.
Yeah.
Even if we got that, we have learned as a fan base, and if you've not yet, you will learn quickly. Even a home run roster going into the start of spring 2020 is no guarantee that we're going to have smooth sailing. So I think the lessons we learned along the way in 2019, and that we committed to doing as an organization much better at, such as communicating to our fans what's happening and why, those things will all be passed on to him, no doubt. And I think he's going to nail that. I really do. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to have hard messages to deliver. And I'm sure there'll be people who jump off the bandwagon, right?
Yeah.
At some point. But I'm feeling very confident about that.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I happen to have statistics to illustrate the point. I did the phrase clear communication. I did a count of that from the one video with PapaSmithy and Nate Shot. The times clear communication was referenced in that video were 109,325.
They hit it a few times.
So yes, it does seem that they intend to communicate what they are doing and why. Interestingly enough, I think, I definitely got the implication that this will be even when they are making unpopular decisions, or even when things are not so hot, not so great, which we've had some of those up and downs throughout the history of the organization already. So PapaSmithy seems intent on navigating those and not shying away from that, which is pretty interesting. As you know, I'm not necessarily a fan of 100% transparency all the time, as I think that can sometimes have some negative effects on some things. But there seems to be the demand for that from esports fans in general. So I understand where that need is coming from, and I will be hotly interested in seeing how what the plan is for those things. Hopefully, I was going to say, hopefully we don't really have to do that much with the tough messages. Right. But the other thing you brought up is having, the possibility of a developmental roster, which is code word for like a really rough season, right? Like, let's be honest about it. That means, hey guys, guess what? We're probably not going to win many of these games. So let's focus on the lessons we learned along the way, which is not exactly like an easy thing to do. And it's not an easy thing to hear as fans. Obviously there are reasons for that. Doing what's best for the long-term health of the organization is an inarguable plus. But what I'm saying is, it seems like they are setting themselves up for the possibility that this may not be the greatest year when it comes to end of year standings. And it will be fascinating to watch how the fans of 100 Thieves react to this. Are people going to fall off the bandwagon and say they're not trying to win? They don't care about winning. They just care about having the spot and, you know, selling cream hoodies? Or is it going to be, you know, people who understand it? Like, is PapaSmithy going to have the charisma and the pull to get the patience out of the fans that they're asking for? This is just, again, assuming that that's the kind of roster we end up with, which as of right now, we are not sure about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, and like he said, it's one possibility. I personally am glad that they're acknowledging that possibility, right? The thing that I would be discouraged by at this point, honestly, is if they said, we're here to win championships. We want to win a world championship. That is our aim for 2020. We want to anything short of lifting the Summoners Cup in China, ! Even less likely than these last 2 years, would be a failure. I would have major concerns about that. I would have serious reservations. It just doesn't seem realistic. And it kind of gets back to what we were talking about with the things we learned from Worlds. I think that the West is a ways away from that yet, especially if you unhitch the NA car from the EU engine here. Like, NA is even further behind the EU. Let's make no, you know.
Yeah, sure.
No qualms about it. All that being said, the way you get to actually competing on the world stage, which I'm also glad they said is one of the goals of the organization in the longer term, you have to invest. You have to invest in talent. There's a 2 import limit. Even with some of these funny rules where you can kind of get around it, it's 2, right? And so right now, unless you have one of these teams that is benefiting from some grandfather rules, if you're going out there buying the best possible talent you can buy, you are only 2/5 of the way toward a world-class roster, to be honest. And that's just not good enough. It's not ever going to cut it. I think at quarterfinals of Worlds and beyond, what we've learned is having 2 of the best players in the world still isn't going to get you very far. We're seeing that year after year. So that is not a solution. That's not a long-term solution. If anything, that's just a short-term cash grab.
Yeah, it's like setting up the classic scenario between the you know, the high value superstar group that's pulled together with the purpose of nothing but to win, versus, you know, the guys have been playing together their whole lives. You know, they've known each other since they were 5 years old, and they've been playing. You know, it's like that's the only shot, you know, we have at it. I think the whole idea behind the developmental roster, right, is to find that NA talent, right? Like to develop what we have in terms of domestic assets, so that if you know, when the timing is right and we have that, we can complement it with the right imports, to make the push. And I agree with you. Raising the trophy in China is probably not on the cards for us, you know. But to get to the level of international relevance could be possible.
Yeah.
You know, to say like
we send 3 teams every year.
And to say that, like, you know, C9 is a relevant international presence. Like when they make Worlds, people have some sort of expectation for them, you know, that they belong there, even if when it doesn't go well like this year. But
well, and let's not overlook the fact that there's a way to build the development roster while still importing players, right, as well.
Yeah.
And they talked about this, and we'll get to that video as well with Zikz, but finding the best new talent from wherever it is in the globe, that's a huge advantage that we should be leveraging. So that might look a lot like losing this year, you know, and it might mean that we do.
Yeah, but I guess I'm just saying, like, it feels rather meaningless unless we have the right domestic pieces. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it's great to have the high-powered imports on your team, but you know, if it doesn't translate into even winning domestically, like that's a problem. So I think it's the slow approach. Wait till the timing's right, and see what you can do. And maybe they're going to be able to pull off some Hail Marys here. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I think I mentioned this in the podcast we did after PapaSmithy was first announced back in September. But there's a lot of talk about PapaSmithy coming from the LCK community, right? And there seems to be, in my opinion, like just listening to 100 Thieves fans talk about this, there seems to be the thought that, well, naturally he's going to be able to give us all the advantage in the world coming from LCK with imports, right? I still am not convinced that that is A, the plan, or B, reality, right? Because yes, he's familiar with it and he could make, perhaps informed decisions there, but it's kind of like I don't get the feeling that having him is magically going to open this wonderful LCK import pipeline, and that may not even be what people want to have happen, speaking from inside the organization. So I don't know the answer to that question. It would be wonderful, sure, if we were able to pull off some magic that way, that jumped us into relevance. Like if we're able to pair Bang with the right import in some way that's coming out of the same region, whatever. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm just not convinced completely that that's just a given, because we have, a wonderful personality from the LCK world now as our general manager. Am I off base on that?
No, I don't think so. And I think that's one thing that you didn't hear them talk about much at all. I think there's a pretty brief, exchange that Papa had with Nate Chat where he basically said, we're exhausting all options. We've got phones, we've got landlines, we're doing everything.
Yeah.
So of course he's going to be calling people, right? And he's going to be checking around. And if there's a play that is the absolute right and obvious play, they're going to make it. But I think that we should all change our perception of what right is from the best possible player for 2020 to something that looks a little bit more like what is an option that we can build around look like. It just feels to me that that's really what they're pushing us towards thinking about. And I don't hate it, right? I feel like that's a pretty mature way to think about this, where a lot of people are just trying to grab up the best possible player, without thought for the implications of that.
Sure. Well, it will certainly, as I mentioned before, require the patience and understanding of 100 Thieves fans. So 100 Thieves fans, let's be patient.
We're talking to you. Yeah.
Let this thing develop. That's probably the right move here.
Yep.
Do you get any sense that so nothing's set with the roster, right? But do you get the sense that despite the undeniable Korean connection and charisma of esports Tom Hanks, Papa Tom, that we still have kind of like a chalked season? Like tank is the wrong word, right? Because there's not like a draft coming up that we're going to get favorable position in. But is what I said earlier, is developmental truly a code for it's going to be rough this year?
I mean, yeah, maybe. Right. And just want to call out to Jackson in the chat saying a whole lot of logic here. I'm not so sure about this cautioning us against too much logic applied to a situation. We'll try to keep it in check. But here's how I've been thinking about it. I think my definition of chalked has changed too, right? Like for spring split, you remember in summer split when we started actually, we brought Amazing in, we started making plays, we put Fake God in, the team just looked better. It felt so much less chalked than spring did.
Sure.
When on paper, you'd say spring was our best look roster, right? We've spent more.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what we actually spent, because when you're paying players to come in short notice for a split, you probably pay a little extra for that. So I think for me, I'm thinking of it as I honestly don't. I'm not super concerned about. I know what it feels like to miss playoffs twice, back-to-back splits, and it's a bummer. But if it's for the purpose of something bigger, I can deal with that. I think the thing that will be discouraging and will make me feel like we're wasting time is if it doesn't seem to be productive, which is how spring felt. And I think just compare that to summer and how different it felt. Even though we ended up missing playoffs, we were in it till the last. We made a push. There's it just had a different feel.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Like the feeling of what it's like changed dramatically. And okay, I can get with you on that one. So as long as it feels like we're swimming upstream a little bit, then
at least
be okay.
At least we're moving.
Yeah.
At least we're moving. Just keep moving.
Well, we did make a move. We made a pretty big one. And
yes, we did.
That was just, what was that, 2 days ago? Was that yesterday? I've lost track of time because of the 100 Thieves CSGO. Shout out 100 Thieves CSGO.
Oh, yeah, the boys.
Making the grand finals in their first first event. So yeah, the boys
got a special feel about it.
Yeah,
That's not
the
the last to
convicts.
hear us talk about that. Yeah, we're gonna keep talking about the convicts.
So, but I stayed up to watch that, and then I watched Worlds, so I'm kind of out of it. I lost track of time. But anyway, recently, whenever it was, we announced that pr0lly is no longer the head coach of 100 Thieves, which means pr0lly Watch is officially over. Now, if you're new to the show, you may not be aware of this, but we had a pr0lly Watch segment of the podcast like pretty much every week during I would say like from halfway through spring split all the way through the end of the year, where we were gauging how safe pr0lly's job is, and now it's officially over.
Now we have the answer.
No longer with us. Again, shout out pr0lly though. We made Worlds in our first year. He promised Worlds. He said if he had the right roster, and they got that roster, that he could make Worlds, and they did it in the first year of 100 Thieves. First place regular season finish in spring, second place in playoffs. Pretty amazing stuff for a first year coach. Second year, obviously, just didn't go well with the pieces that we had in place. But big shout out to pr0lly.
Coach of the split.
Coach of the split, he was coach of the split in 2018 spring. Big shout out for, just doing amazing things from the organization from day one. And it didn't work out. We've made a move here, but we should be grateful for, the memories that we made along the way, because we're all friends.
We're all friends. And probably in no small part because of probably the work he put in, right? Like if this team started off and it was a real stinker, it was a dud, then maybe there's not so much excitement about the organization as a whole, to be honest. This is an esports organization. I think if you don't show up and start winning, you become kind of an afterthought, right? Or maybe you are more thought of as strictly an apparel company at that point, with a little esports business on the side. So I think he was a big part of what got us all thinking that this is a real contender who can show up in the biggest environments. And then the COD boys, right, kept that going. So, but pr0lly was the first one. So there's always something special about being the first person to make your stake your claim. He did a great job. Didn't work out obviously how he wanted it to in year two, but what are you going to do? He's got a strong resume, and I'm sure he'll land somewhere.
Well, now we have Zikz.
We got Zikz.
That was announced earlier today, so fortuitous timing on us deciding to do a podcast today.
As always.
Now we have something pretty big to talk about. Reaction. So just in surveying the fans and chat, you can weigh in right now if you want. The reaction to Zikz seems largely positive to me from the community. Seems that people see it as a potentially good move, something that we're willing to support, something that could lead to a new feel for the team, potentially good synergy with PapaSmithy, aka Esports Tom Hanks. Gotta get used to saying that all the time now.
It's a long name. It becomes quite a long name.
How are you feeling about Zikz?
He's a bit he's no stranger to a rocky road. I'll say that.
That sounds like an old Bob Dylan song, "No Stranger to a Rocky Road."
That they ended up turning into a jingle for ice cream.
Against his dying wishes.
Yeah. Right. Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes is in it too.
Yeah.
It's really gone over the edge.
Yeah.
Hey, he's like one day into the job. He's got no work product to show for it. And I think I'm not in the camp of people who's going to say, did you see how TSM did? It's so bad. Because I think TSM had just a couple things going on, I'd wager.
Okay.
And obviously you don't give. Yeah, go ahead.
That's the start of a conversation here, because here's what I'll say. I feel largely optimistic about this.
Yes.
But there is the internal situation at TSM that happened during the summer split, right?
Correct.
Now, so it comes down to this, right? The obvious question is, how much of that was Zikz? How much of that was Parth? How much of that was Reggie, right? That's the question. That's the question, right? Now, because look, if you've got stuff messed up within your org, like everybody owns some share of that responsibility. Okay.
Right.
So
like Broken Blade, Broken Blade. I'm just kidding.
For the new people, Broken Blade will be the target of a lot of comments, I think, during this upcoming thing. But look,
it's all fun.
Seriously, everybody has some sort of responsibility in it, right? So it's just how much. Now, feels like everybody really places the blame on Parth and Reggie in this situation. Of course, we'll never know the full answers. I'm sure 100 Thieves did some due diligence there to check into that. But undeniably there was smoke there, right? Something was going on. So bringing someone who comes from that situation, it's either they learned from it and they're going to do everything they can to avoid it, or they could have played a part in causing it. I personally don't think Zikz was really like at fault here. It sounded like it was just a complete mess. Right. If what was said in all the rumors and like Hotline League and everything is to be believed. But we'll never know for sure. And so there's some element of risk to ask the fans to buy into that move. But it does sound like it's overall being pretty well accepted by everybody.
Yeah. And you have to check my history on this, but spring 2019 is when TSM made it to 2-0 up in the finals, right?
Yeah.
They were one game away from getting the dub and getting the banner. So he gets credit for that too, right? You get credit for the good and the bad, at least to some part. Like he didn't have no part in being that close to the championship. He didn't have no part in the roster falling apart and the team imploding.
Sure.
So that's a vote of confidence in a certain way for me as well.
And not to mention he has an LCS title or 2 even under his belt, and he was an MSI finalist during his time at CLG. So there is some pedigree of winning there, which is great. This is the kind of thing that we need. So anyway, that'll be the great hope, I think, of everything, is just to know that, you know, that he was not really a material part of the bad things that happened to TSM, and that he's not going to bring any of that with us. But I also think that some of the stuff we went through both in year 1 and year 2 have made the organization smarter about these things. And so I think everybody will be on guard for that. And with the more slow measured approach, hopefully that gets pushed along at the appropriate pace and doesn't put anybody in a bad situation.
Yeah. And let's not forget, unless PapaSmithy was lying, which seems like a bad move when you're sitting next to your new hire in front of your entire fan base and saying that he got his number 1 pick, right? I don't think that's what you say if he's actually your number 4 pick, because that becomes transparent pretty quickly, right? When he's like, he sees all the other people you were DMing and like, sending your consolation messages to the other people who didn't get the job.
Yeah.
So that's a big vote of confidence.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, I realized I took some notes from the video that Zikz and PapaSmithy did. Some of the things that he said were, for example, he said in TSM, I didn't feel a strong alignment there, philosophical alignment. So definitely he felt out of sync with the way things are being run there. And he contrasts that to his communications and planning with PapaSmithy, where it seems like they're very much on the same page, which is a definite good sign. He said that included in his personal philosophy for running a team is quote, a level of psychological safety and trust, straightforward, realistic goal setting, and then a developmental approach to things. So again, it sounds like saying all the right things for someone who's in our position where we don't have immediate access to a winning scenario in front of us. And interestingly enough, like along the lines of development, something that he said was to give the developing players resources, not just putting them in academy.
I was really hoping you're going to say that.
Okay, yeah, go off then. Go off, King.
All right, so this has been kind of a pet peeve of mine. Just about, I think, the LCS in general. Everything leads to stage time, right? You hear people talk all the time, well, he doesn't have any stage time, or he's only got a little bit of stage time. But there's so much more that you have to do to build a player up before they actually grow. Like it's not exposure therapy, right? Like it's not like these guys are all the world's best players, if only they could get over their like stage fright. So you don't just need to put them up there and say like, all right, now you had some stage time, so now you can really start.
Now
playing
you're
well.
a real boy.
Yeah. Now it's the exciting part where you get to start smurfing on everybody else. That's great. So I was just really glad I'd never heard anybody say that, right? Of like, we're going to develop people in ways beyond just getting them big games. Because I think, and we've run into this so many times as an organization, where our hand has been forced and we've needed to put players in positions that are probably outsized to what they're ready for. And that's something that happens, right? Of course it's going to happen. There's no perfect way to ease somebody in. We play a best of one, so it's not like there's a lot of opportunity to say like, well, we're up 2-0 in a best of 3, so good luck. It's like that just doesn't exist.
Either
Every
win
game
it
counts.
Or you'll never play again.
Right. Either win it or we don't really care at all because we won the series. So good luck. So yeah, I just think it's a really good mindset. And I think that kind of thing is the kind of mindset shift we need as a region if we want to actually start building domestically players who have a chance of competing against China. And I mean, China. And the LEC and LCK
and everyone else.
But really,
and
China's
every other major region, to be honest.
Yeah, anyone else at all, in fact. So that was huge for me, and he won a lot of points with me when he said that. Just I think it's such an insightful thing to say. It seems so simple, but it really is what I think a big part of what's missing. All the development that goes into. I mean, you've talked about like media training. Can we try some of that? Just round these guys out. Get them comfortable, get them used to the position they're in. It's kind of crazy. You could go from number 1 challenger to suddenly you're on camera in front of a lot of people. Like that's a big change.
Yeah. Well, honestly, yeah, other than the media training example, like I'm not sure what it really looks like to give your players resources for development. So
yeah,
I'll be interested to see what that looks like. If that's just, extra support staff and personnel, if it's more curated coaching and training. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the vision is for that, because at least it's on the agenda for them.
Yeah. Can I give you another one of my ideas?
Yeah.
We always talk about, I think a product of solo queue is you play the game differently, right? Solo queue rewards different behaviors and different kind of skills than what you need when you're playing either an academy or the LCS. Like, I think there have been a lot of players who we've seen come through the ranks who just haven't had that kind of the team mindset, right? Or they've not really known how to communicate well. Like, I think there's opportunities to train those things in ways that aren't necessarily just playing more solo queue.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't get that from grinding harder. That, grinding is its own thing. It's important to master your champions, but like there's all kinds of different training opportunities for how to develop people into leaders, right? And how to make people more comfortable communicating. Like communication training, who knows how well that would go? It's just, I think there's a whole world of things out there that people could try. And I really hope that we start to see some of that stuff. I think that'd be really interesting.
Well, with the promise of clear communication, reasoning behind everything they're doing,
right,
making us aware of what the approach is, then hopefully we have more information to look forward to along those fronts. I certainly hope so.
It's a new day.
One more thing about Zikz, and this is actually, I'm combing this from a message I got, I think from Jarrett maybe in chat earlier, who was talking about Zikz, asking the question of does Zikz have a pull when it comes to bringing in players? Like, are players going to want to play for him? Are they going to want to come to 100 Thieves because of his specific coaching, his specific approach? Do you have any sort of feel for that? Do you have any sort of thought of that? Is this a wait and see?
A couple, I don't have a great answer for this, but I'll just say, I think there are a couple of things tidbits we got just in the last couple of days that are important and that will continue to be important. One, Zikz, I don't know what other options he had, right? We don't have that information, but he chose to come here. He accepted his job. So I think it says a lot that the team that finished out of the playoff race 2 splits in a row. Got a pretty, like, this is not a no-name coach, right? He's got a really strong pedigree. He's got a good track record. Say what you will about the last few years, he said he's bounced around a little bit.
Yeah, he was fired from CLG, right?
Yeah, he's proven NA talent with proven results. Like, even like I said, as recently as a year ago, he was in the finals 2 games up. That's big. That's a big thing. He's clearly still has it. So he chose us. The short answer I'm going to give you is, I think there are a lot of things that do generate pull about the organization still, which is really interesting to me. And I think it speaks a lot to the strength of the brand. Papa talked about Nadeshot and how people want to play for his organization, right?
Yeah.
Even though the guy is not a brilliant League of Legends mind, and he's not going to inspire any.
Remember, he teleported back to base in one of the few times he ever streamed himself playing League of Legends.
So no kid wants to sign up to play for 100 Thieves so they can learn from him. If this were a COD team that we're talking about, potentially that might be a pull. But people still want to be around him, right? They want to be around him, and they want to be around his organization. And so that's strong. I think PapaSmithy is another incredibly strong pull, and that we saw Zikz saying, basically, I wanted to play and coach with you. So all these things, I think, combine to generate a level of pull that even if Zikz is not the coach with the most pull, I think all of those factors come together. And over time, what we'll see is, if we start bringing in players and actually developing them and turning them into people who get valuable experiences that translate into trophies and, deep runs in the playoffs, things like that, Worlds experience, then yeah, his pull is through the roof.
I hope you are a prophet, sir. Because given the current state of flux around our roster, we really could use some of that. Not gonna lie. It's actually, let's just go ahead and dive into that a little bit. Certainly there are many aspects of the roster that are up in the air. Like, if you talk to people around, like, just talk to the fans about like what they see happening to the roster. Everybody has radically different ideas about what's possible and what would work. Now, some of that is no doubt due to these terrible rumor Twitter accounts that I referenced earlier, that are just popping up everywhere. And I don't know if it's just like, this is only our second year of waiting through free agency, right? But this just seems like a way higher level than it was last year in terms of the rumors flying around. It's like people are just doing it to do it, Yeah. So it makes it hard
is this a normal thing?
Yeah, chat. Okay. Is this
Let us know,
normal?
Like 4 or 5 years ago.
This seems like definitely like a bigger push this year. But it's making it hard to sort through everything. So here's what we know. What we know is that Amazing has been allowed to explore options for other teams, right? Yep. So technically still with us, I'm assuming, but probably won't be, right?
Well, and is that just something you have to say before your contract actually ends? Right?
No, I think that's just the standard language that they use, but I think, that's a very specific language, right? It's not my 100 Thieves is not renewing my contract, or 100 Thieves has traded me, or whatever. They've allowed me to explore other options. So
right.
But that's something, right? So we have this question mark at jungle right now. Anda and Fragus. No, Fragus is actually no longer with us. Isn't that right?
Get released?
I may be mistaken on that. Hold on. Let me look. Let me look. I thought a while ago Fragus had tweeted the same thing, that he was exploring options. I could be way off on that.
I feel like I would be much sadder.
And is still around. No, okay, yeah, I just misspoke. It looks like. Sorry about that. But what's going on in jungle? Like, what's on your radar for jungle? Do we plug in, somebody that we have, or?
Yeah, I think I don't know that. I think we've talked about Anda as being like a really young guy. In the past, I don't think he is, right. Like, he's not like a newer player to the scene.
Yeah,
he's got a good few years of experience. So I think the question for every player, every position we have, and the academy guys, we're gonna have to ask the same things. It looks like chat's saying he's 24, or maybe that's not. Anyway, I think you have to just get a good sense for what the ceiling is. My sense on Anda is that I feel like we've kind of defined his ceiling to a certain degree. Now, does that mean that Papa doesn't think, or Papa might think that he's, if he were utilized in such and such a way, he would actually be a really great addition? I don't know. It's possible. You know, like I thought he played a lot better in 2018 than 2019. So if we can get him back to 2018 form, you know, if there's some changes we can make to the overall roster, would he be, could he fit into this kind of developmental mindset? Potentially. Yeah, I wouldn't count it out. But my sense is more towards, I think we'll probably want somebody who is, you know, newer to the scene and who we can kind of mold and craft into specific ways. Because I think that was one of the things that was a struggle with Anda, is he wasn't able to adapt to the new look roster that we put in 2019.
Yeah. Well, as Ray's Modern Life pointed out in chat, he did have a pretty strong academy year. We'll see what happens there. But I think what we felt is that Amazing was somebody who gave us a really strong team leader,
right,
and not a strong champion pool, right? So, gosh, when you're thinking development, it's like you do want leadership, right? Like you want strong leaders to pair with your younger guys who are supposed to be the more developmental prospects. So we lose that aspect of leadership coming from him. You know, I don't know if you saw, but in his announcement where he's saying 100 Thieves letting me explore my options, there were, you know, the younger members of the team were responding and thanking him for,
for sure,
you know, for doing so much for them and everything. Like that's what you want. So you know,
well, somebody who players can look up to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
I feel like he led by example in such an amazing way.
Yeah. And to teach you like what it means to be professional, how you carry yourself with your team, all that sort of thing. So I hope whatever change that we make, we're not losing that aspect, you know, because we have to find the right balance between developmental players and some leadership in there. Because it can't, you know, it seems like it just can't be the group of super young guys with no experience. Right.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and if you don't know the answer, then don't feel obliged to try. But I know you watch a lot more LPL, LCK than I do.
Yeah.
With when they have these newer squads burst onto the scene, I'm thinking Griffin, Damwon, FPX. Is it common? My understanding of those squads is it's challengers, right? Is it common that they sprinkle in there a vet at some position who can provide that like more seasoned, or is it truly just a bunch of young dudes who tear it up?
So first of all, while I do watch those leagues, I'm not seasoned enough to really know the answer to this, but my feel for that is that those teams have been like FPX, right?
Yeah.
That was a team of players that were put together in like a sub league, you know, coming out of Challenger, they were put together in their own smaller, I guess you would say, developmental league, and then make it up into the big leagues and then crush everything. So it's not like the players themselves have some experience playing together, even though they're super young. That's my understanding of it. So chat, correct me if that's the case. Yeah, Damwon, Griffin. Nuclear. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I think that tends to be the norm for them.
Yeah.
But they have much stronger developmental infrastructure than we do here in NA. You know, so it's a kind of an apples to oranges comparison.
Yeah. But you know, that is one thing I wonder if you can, if there's a benefit to having a team of younger players like that who can learn each other and improve kind of at the same time or same rate. But it might just be too different with those regions being so much more kind of deep. But I think it brings up a question that I will continue to have, which is all of these aspirational developmental goals and things. How much of that is going to be for us hindered by just the reality of the LCS and NA, right? And I think that's not a question that anyone really has an answer to. There's been a lot of discussion about it. But you know, what if it turns out that player base is a hard limiter on this?
Yeah.
We're going to run up against that wall at some point, and that will be frustrating, right? I don't know. You know, we obviously shouldn't expect to be the next Griffin. It's just not really in the cards.
Yeah. you know, during this particular show that we do, we don't tend to read chat quite as much, but I will shout out Sir Ozzy in Twitch chat says C9 has amazing developmental structure. And that's a good point. You know, that's a team that seems to continually churn out good young prospects coming from the domestic talent pool. So they're doing something right. Maybe we can ape something from them that that can put that kind of structure in place where we produce assets that are either going to play for us or that are going to be valuable trade pieces or buyout pieces or whatever. You know, they have options there, you know, options to a degree that most other teams do not have, and they're operating in NA.
Yeah. I mean, it does raise a question kind of like, what's C9's ceiling? And is that, you know, so these are all things we'll have to solve down the road.
But they've gone farther than us at Worlds, certainly,
they have,
right?
Yes, they have. Yeah.
For sure.
They didn't make it out of groups this year, but
not this year, but they almost always did every other time they had the chance. So,
yeah.
But so all that to be said, the free agency period begins on the 20th. So the 19th is the last date for contracts expiring. Then we enter the free agency period where all these moves can really accelerate. So are we expecting, like, look, I don't know how to ask this question like in the best way, but are you expecting a ton of movement or are you expecting a little movement? You know what I mean? Like, are we gonna is all this just gonna blow over and really it's like, okay, I got a new jungler and the rest is kind of the same? Or are you expecting like total overhaul?
I think a lot of that will be decided by contracts. I don't. Okay, you prepare yourself.
Not the player, the things. Right.
What's that?
Contracts, the things, not the player.
Contracts, not the player. No Z on that contracts. It's one thing to say, to kind of make a statement and say we are prepared to view this as a more developmental program and put the time and energy into that it requires to do it right. It's another thing to slash and burn your investment in players who are otherwise, you know, could be a valuable asset to your organization. So what I mean is, you know, there are a number of contracts that we still carry, and that we, unless we can find some way out of them, a trade or a buyout or something, I don't think you can start moving on phase 2 as soon as you might otherwise. That's my perspective. I think it's going to be that much harder to justify it, right? So if you have, let's just put it out there. If you have, well, I think Ssumday and Fake God actually becomes even more of a tricky situation because if development is your goal, then Fake God is your guy. Like, he is, I would say, a very strong candidate for a future, like first, second teamer for LCS top. So, but you know, like Bang, Afro, you know, those guys, it just feels like a lot to bench them or to send them down or to make moves, bring up untested talent and just have those guys in academy. It feels like more than I can see us doing. What do you think?
Well, I think, as I alluded to earlier, that there's going to be a mix because you need the veteran leadership in there to help teach those lessons. Something that Twitter user and Twitch user, I always regret saying his name out loud, but Tasio Salad said that, this is one of his takes that he sent in earlier for the show, that he says, with the 2 League of Legends videos, Papa and Zikz talked about developmental rosters, so it seems they're pushing that narrative. Who stays to help develop the new players? I'm thinking with Zikz and Afro having prior time together, maybe he stays to foster new ADC. Curious what you think. So this is along the lines that I'm thinking. I'm thinking that certainly they're going to have a veteran stick around. I would lean towards Afro, but honestly, I don't think really anybody's safe. I mean, I've said that I think Fake God is the long-term prospect for us, so I don't know if Ssumday's even going to be here. So yeah, I think from keeping a veteran around to teach people, maybe Afromu is a good option, and if he and Zikz still have that relationship together, then cool. I don't know, but it does seem to me like we're going to make some significant changes, you know, and I could see this, you know, being a step in the youthful direction.
Let me just. I'm not gonna call this a hot take because I don't think it actually is. But think about this. Okay, 100 Thieves has a new headquarters, right?
Right.
It is designed to bring the teams together, to have everybody in one place. I mean, it really is. It's an overhaul of what they had started off as. It's going to provide a lot of different opportunity for them, just from a purely developmental perspective. That's going to be the word of this season, I think, developmental. I would not be surprised to see if the players. So I'm thinking about Aframu. If he likes the direction this organization is going, and he feels like, you know what, I don't know how many more seasons I want to be a pro. I've had a great career, an outstanding career, one of the best North American players, and I'm ready to think about what the next stage of my career looks like. I wouldn't be shocked if we start to see. I think it's one thing to say developmental program and you're going to develop players. I think it's another to start adding pieces to your developmental toolbox in a way that you're not seeing other teams do. And I would not be completely shocked if we saw something like that in the next 1 to 2 years from this team. Because I think if your honest intent is to change the way we're developing talent in North America, which is kind of the impression I'm getting from these guys when they talk, like if you really want to have 5 of the best players at their position, I think you might need a little bit more than a head coach, an academy coach, and a strategic coach. I think you might want to look at what are the other options out there. Can we have something more like position coaches,
or right? Like Ryu did, before he subbed like back in. Did. Like if Aframu, gives way to a new support, but is there to be a support coach or a bot lane coach or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't even know what the options look like, and that's why it's not a hot take, because we kind of saw it with Ryu, although he was not really like a position coach. But I'm even thinking, like, do they have a different way that they do in-houses, right? Do they have a bigger like roster or something that is involved in internal scrims? Like how valuable would that be if you could have somebody like an Aframu to say, here's how we play the game, right? Here's how 100 Thieves plays. Here's our approach. Because he's always been the mentality guy. He's always been the aggressive player who says, we're going in.
Yeah.
And so if that mentality is one that matches up with the future direction of the team, you want that guy to say, hey, new support player, go. When you see this, go every time. Go, 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 go. So I just want to put that out there because that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
The potential.
Yeah, though, gosh, yeah, it's just hard to think of all these players leaving, because I think like one of the things, here's another listener take from earlier. Twitter user @ribnarok said, with PapaSmithy's ties to Korea, do you think he'll stick with the current Korean imports Bang and Ssumday or swap one/both of them out for new imports? So that's like, to me, I just feel like thinking developmentally, Fake God is the long-term prospect, as I said. So that means you got that import slot open, right? So it's got to be like what do you do if Aframu steps aside? I don't think we're bringing an import support, right? No. So is that bring up Stunt? Probably not. Is that bring in another NA support, whatever, but that leaves open. Fake God is up top, so that leaves open import mid, so that's a new player. Amazing's gone, so we probably have a new player in jungle, and then that would mean new support. That's 3 out of 5. Yeah. It's just like this team could look so radically different right. going into the next split. It's just hard to say. Like I think maybe that's why the whole line is it could be. We could have the home run roster. We could have the developmental roster, because maybe it's just seize whatever opportunities are presented, and make the best of it. But man, that doesn't feel like a very strong direction for the team. Yeah. Like to just like, oh, we'll see what develops. It's like, well, I don't know. Don't you want to have a more assertive plan? So it's like I'm going crazy just thinking about the possibilities and like not feeling sure about which direction this thing is going to go. And fortunately, we only have to wait 9 days before we start seeing those pieces of the puzzle fit in.
Right. I do feel like we're gonna need to look very, very closely at the import options for mid. It just feels like of all the positions, I feel like that's the thinnest North American talent wise.
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, brings up yet another listener take that we got earlier. At Montgomery_4W says, thoughts on who we will get as a mid. Do you think we will stay in NA or import?
Oh, also Mo.
Yeah, I don't see that one. Mo is a content creator for 100 Thieves. I don't see him getting a shot in Academy or whatever. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Cole? Is Sligo's contract up?
No, I don't believe so. I could be wrong on that. I need to pull up the contract database. But I don't think Sligo's the person. I think if we're going to bring in another import, that's where it is. Mm-hmm. That's where it is.
I do too.
So I do too. I could see it being, especially like an EU import mid. I know that goes against the whole PapaSmithy LCK narrative, but it just feels like that's the kind of talent that works in NA is importing the EU mid, right? There's strength there.
Strong track record.
Mm-hmm.
Sligo, Cole.
Are you revisiting?
I'm not entirely. The only thing I'll say is this. I think PapaSmithy is a very good assessor of talent. And I think that Sligo is somebody who is very talented. So I will be interested to see if he watches Sligo play, gets really into the tape, into the footage, and what he thinks of him. I think I'm in no way saying that I think he is like, I don't think he's LCS ready. I really don't. And I wouldn't make that push, but I think from a pure raw talent perspective, I think he's got a lot of talent. And I think there were some gaps in his game that could not be reconciled with the LCS stage. But I don't know that we couldn't develop those things to be less of a huge kind of deal breaker. So I think if what you're thinking about is what is the NA talent pool for mid, Sligo is in that talent pool, and you ought to give him another look, because I think you already got his contract in your hand. Just make sure that you're not letting him walk out when he could be turned into somebody who's actually viable.
Fair enough, man. That's a reasonable thing. I just don't think. I don't know. I just think that they're gonna want to find a real position of strength there, and we'll see. I would not bet on Sligo, even though I love him. Great smile.
I wouldn't bet on him.
He's a nice boy.
He is.
He's a really nice boy. Okay, so let's go ahead, chat. We'll give you a second if you've got any questions, any more things that you want us to address. We'll give you a few minutes to do that here. Just at the end of our show before we move on. Again, free agency starts in earnest on the 20th. There's going to be that Jacob Wolf and Fionn show, the free agency show that ESPN's doing, I think a week from today, if I'm not mistaken. That will be fun to watch. I'm actually pretty excited for that.
I am.
We may have to figure out something special to do during that, because even if it's just total nonsense, at least it'll be fun.
Entertainment.
So let's see. pr0lly could get some opportunities. Perhaps it's not. I don't know if you mean with us or elsewhere, because Bang is a pretty good ADC, and so and someone we're spending a lot of money on. So look, like my whole take on that Militime is based on the fact that I believe Fake God to be the long-term prospect here, which means that you can probably safely assume that Bang is going to be here unless another import is rotated in at that spot. That's me personally. Do you think this is Jixon in chat, which I believe is Graphic Hipster. Welcome back. Do you think we'll announce a big mid laner first or last of our off-season work? First or last?
Or I'm going to provide option C, not at all. Like big mid laner might not be something that fits into
maybe big mid laner. I don't know, but no, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. How plausible do you think Hunter T. Jensen is? Very not plausible. In my mind. Hunter T. Medios would be nice for a jungle. Don't go there.
Cole, if we have to get rid of an import, would you prefer to see Bang or Ssumday leaving?
If we have to get rid of one, well, look, ideal world, I really like Ssumday as a player, and I would like to keep him. But I think the right decision is to let him go and to let Fake God cook as an NA top. I think that's the right decision. Plus, it's like how much are we going to make our bot lane redevelop over and over again? You know, it's like it's a duo lane. You need some time to be together.
Right.
So, Dylan asks, "What is your favorite to eat, and what is your favorite recipe to make?"
The hard-hitting questions from Dylan, as usual.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. I like Indian food and I like Mexican food. And I don't like to make anything personally.
I love ramen. I'm not a big cooker.
We'll take a couple more guys and then we'll wrap this up. Let's see. Going through chat to find a couple of these.
If Bang's contract was up, would you this middle time? Would you re-sign him? I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say it depends on the price. He would need to be cheaper. Like, I think I'm assuming he gets a very high salary, right? Like high 6-figure salary. And I think that's very expensive for how it's gone for us. So I think ideally, if we were to keep him, we would need to keep him at a lower price. If we could get a lower price, then I would be on board with it. I think he had moments, and I think he was going in a positive direction with us personally. So also he gave us some fun stuff to watch. Like the This Is Bang fight is pretty awesome.
The Captain Jack.
Yeah, and the Captain Jack that he pulled off against, was that C9, where he flashed the Ash W and did the Captain Jack. Okay, trade Ssumday for Licorice. So since that would be a domestic for an import, yes, 100% yes, I would do that. Shadowwing, do you guys think that the UCal rumor has any chance of happening? I think that is a rumor that's been brewed from just PapaSmithy being LCK, and so no, I don't really give credence to that personally. I don't know how I'd feel about it because it was a little up and down for him in the last split, I feel like, if I'm recalling right, and I think he had some time off even. I don't know. It would probably be better than our current situation, though, I will say that. But I'm assuming that's a high price as well, and so that would be a little rough. Let's see. Let's take one more, Jordan. Let's see. Add in. Well, we already answered that about pr0lly. What mid imports do you think are possible and good for us? We talked a little bit about this on our free agency show that we did a while back.
Years ago.
The problem is you've got possible in there, and that's just such a complicated thing. I will just say, like, I really liked Larson as a potential pick for us, and I don't think he'd really be incentivized to come over here. That would be kind of great, though. I think if we were able to make that happen. So
yeah, I think I'm with you. My mid would be I would really like to see us find some talent that we think is going to be amazing. Now that he's not on our team anymore, I can say that. And and just run with it.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm kind of over the bring in the best, because I just think it's counter to what you actually need to win.
Yeah. I think no matter what, we are going to have to just sit back and like ride this thing and just see what happens. It's going to be a very interesting free agency period for us. So again, here's where my mind's at. Here, we'll do this to finish off. I'm just going to let's just describe where our minds are at approaching free agency and approaching the 2020 season. I feel like pretty zen about things. Like I'm like, okay, I'm going to try my best to roll with whatever comes up and to attach myself to the philosophy that's being preached by Papa, Tom Hanks.
Yes.
And
both of them.
Both of them. Tom Hanks, investor. I'm gonna try my best to actually like view the season in that context. That's what I'm going to do. So with that, it's like, I'm not trying to have expectations right now. I'm just trying to see what happens and then see it through the lens that they're trying to work with and then evaluate it accordingly. And if it gets to a point where I super disagree with that philosophy, then that will be when I start asking the hard questions. But it's a new regime here, right? New GM, new head coach. There's going to be new players. Like, let's just be patient and give it time. Jordan and I are Illinois fans, and we just watched Lovie Smith finally make a bowl game after like 4 years, right?
Oh, it
and
took 4
we
years.
were wanting him to be fired just a little bit ago. So it happens in traditional sports. Maybe we can have some patience here. So Jordan, where's your mindset? And then let's close.
Yeah, I think if you were forced to shorten what you just said to a hashtag, Cole, I think you'd say hashtag TrustThePapa.
Hashtag TrustThePapa. That's the motto for this year. All right.
Which is
it's in the title of the stream. Yeah.
In the title of the stream.
TrustThePapa.
Is it an emote in our future? It's entirely possible. I will say you shouldn't count that out. We need to make partner before we unlock more emote slots. So that's got to happen first. Twitch, where you at? But no, I think you're right. I feel similarly at this point. I'm not expecting to see crazy and big things from free agency when that window gets here. Not because I don't like I'm resigned to our fate, but because I think that is a false indicator of what the chances of us having a successful future are. It doesn't all rest on 11-20. Now, it doesn't mean it's not important. Like we need to make moves. We need to get the right pieces in here. But I don't think that if you don't get Faker, bummer, you've missed out on 2020. So let's just all move on from that. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. I can't wait. I'm super excited to be a fan of this team right now.
Yeah.
I'm more excited right now to be a fan of this team than I have been probably since we said we got Bang. And it's an entirely different kind of feeling, which is pretty cool. It feels like we have a really strong leadership team in place, even though it's so early, and I don't want to get ahead. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I feel like they're doing and saying the right things that can get me excited. And I think these are some of the only things you could say that would work after 2019. So I think they're on the right stuff. If you came out and said, we're going to bring in the players that will turn this thing around, we're going to sign the biggest names in the world, I'd say, yeah, we tried that. And look what happened. So I think this is good. I think this is good stuff. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
That's right. Trust the Papa, baby.
Trust the Papa.
With that, that'll do it for 100 Talk for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for being with us again. We look forward to doing more of these. It's still going to be a long off season, but I'm sure we're going to have plenty to talk about once free agency gets rolling.
We will.
In the meantime, as always, we love you and we miss you already.